Super Bowl LX, Seahawks 29, Patriots 13, 19,000 character, voiceover, Hazar Maton. In a dominant display of defensive prowess and ground game excellence, the Seattle Seahawks captured their second Super Bowl championship in franchise history with a decisive 29-13 victory over the New England Patriots at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. The triumph, achieved on the night of February 8, 2026, marked a vindication for a franchise that last tasted championship glory in 2014 and avenged their heartbreaking loss to these same Patriots in Super Bowl XXIX 11 years ago. The story of Super Bowl LX belongs to running back Kenneth Walker III, whose 135 rushing yards on 27 carries earned him the game's Most Valuable Player award and cemented his place in NFL history. Walker became the first running back to claim Super Bowl MVP honors since Denver's Terrell Davis accomplished the feat following the 1997 season, breaking a 28-year drought at the position and reminding the football world that championships can still be won on the ground. Walker's performance was not merely statistically impressive but historically significant. His 135 rushing yards represented the most by any player in a Super Bowl since Davis rushed for 157 yards in that memorable 1998 contest. More remarkably, Walker achieved this output against a Patriots defense that had been dominant throughout the season, surrendering fewer rushing yards than any other team in the league during the regular season and playoffs combined. The game unfolded as a defensive struggle through the first three quarters, with neither offense finding sustained rhythm against two of the league's premier defensive units. Seattle's defense, nicknamed the Dark Side and led by head coach Mike Macdonald's innovative schemes, suffocated Patriots quarterback Drake Maye throughout the evening. The second-year signal caller, who had been a revelation during the regular season as the runner-up for league MVP, found himself under constant pressure from a Seattle defensive front that recorded 6 sacks and forced 3 turnovers. Maye's difficult evening began early and never improved. The Patriots' first 6 possessions ended in punts, a testament to Seattle's defensive dominance and New England's offensive struggles. By halftime, the Patriots had managed just 9 passing yards, with Maye completing only a handful of short passes, while Seattle's pass rush collapsed the pocket repeatedly. The young quarterback, who had injured his shoulder in the AFC Championship game, appeared limited in his ability to drive the ball downfield and struggled to find any rhythm against defensive coordinator Clint Hurtt's varied pressures and coverages. For Seattle, the offensive game plan centered on establishing Walker early and often. On the Seahawks' first possession of the second quarter, Walker ripped off consecutive runs of 30 and 29 yards, becoming just the third player in Super Bowl history to record multiple rushing attempts of 25 or more yards in the championship game. Those explosive plays set up the first points of the game, a 33-yard field goal by kicker Jason Myers that gave Seattle a 3-0 lead. Myers would become a critical figure in this contest, converting all 5 of his field goal attempts and accounting for 17 of Seattle's 29 points. His 5 successful kicks established a new Super Bowl record, breaking the previous mark of 4 field goals shared by several kickers throughout championship game history. Myers connected from distances of 33, 39, 41, 41, and 26 yards, providing the consistent scoring that allowed Seattle to build and maintain a comfortable advantage even as their offense struggled to reach the end zone through 3 quarters of play. By halftime, Seattle led 9-0, with Walker already having accumulated 94 rushing yards on just 14 carries. That first half total represented the second highest rushing output through 2 quarters in Super Bowl history, trailing only Washington's Timmy Smith, who rushed for 131 yards in the first half of Super Bowl XXVIII in 1988. Walker's patient running style, contact balance, and sudden burst allowed him to find creases in New England's defensive front and turn what appeared to be modest gains into explosive plays. The historical significance of a running back dominating a Super Bowl cannot be overstated in the modern NFL, where passing offenses and dual-threat quarterbacks have come to define championship-caliber teams. Walker's performance harkened back to an earlier era of football, while simultaneously demonstrating that traditional approaches remain viable when executed with precision and supported by dominant line play. The Seahawks' offensive line deserved significant credit for Walker's success. Despite facing a Patriots defensive front that had been stingy against the run throughout the season, Seattle's blockers created consistent gaps and sustained their blocks long enough for Walker to reach the second level. Guards Gray Zabel and Phil Haynes, tackles Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas, and center Jalen Sundell provided the foundation that allowed Walker to exceed 100 yards for the fourth consecutive game dating back to Week 18 of the regular season. Seattle's defense maintained its stranglehold on the Patriots through the third quarter, extending the shutout and forcing Maye into increasingly desperate situations. The turning point came midway through the third quarter when linebacker Derek Hall recorded a strip sack of Maye, forcing a fumble that teammate Byron Murphy II recovered. The turnover set up Seattle's first offensive touchdown of the game, a 16-yard pass from quarterback Sam Darnold to tight end A.J. Barner that extended the lead to 16-0. Hall's sack was his first forced fumble since 2024, a drought that ended at the most opportune moment. The play exemplified the relentless pressure Seattle brought all evening, never allowing Maye to settle into comfortable throwing positions or find consistent rhythm with his receivers. The Patriots' offensive line, which had protected well throughout the playoffs, struggled to handle Seattle's varied fronts and creative blitz packages. Darnold, Seattle's quarterback and one of the season's most compelling redemption stories, managed the game effectively without producing spectacular statistics. He completed passes when necessary, avoided turnovers, and demonstrated the improved decision-making that had defined his resurgent campaign. After being considered a draft bust following disappointing stints with the New York Jets and Carolina Panthers, Darnold found new life in Seattle's system and led the Seahawks to a 14-3 regular season record before navigating the playoffs without throwing a single interception. The fourth quarter opened with Seattle holding a 19-0 advantage, seemingly in complete control. New England finally broke through with a 35-yard touchdown pass from Maye to receiver Mac Hollins, cutting the deficit to 19-7 and providing a glimmer of hope for Patriots supporters. However, that hope proved short-lived as Seattle's defense continued to dominate, and Myers added another field goal to push the lead to 22-7. Any remaining drama evaporated when Patriots safety Julian Love intercepted an ill-advised Maye throw and returned it to the New England 38-yard line. Walker then delivered consecutive runs of 14 and 10 yards, setting up Myers' record-breaking fifth field goal and effectively sealing the outcome. The Patriots would add a late garbage-time touchdown, but the game's competitive phase had long since concluded. In the final minutes, cornerback Devin Witherspoon recorded a strip sack of Maye, and linebacker Uchenna Nwosu scooped up the fumble and returned it 45 yards for a touchdown with 4:27 remaining. The defensive score provided a fitting exclamation point on Seattle's dominant performance and pushed the final margin to 29-13. Walker finished with 161 total yards from scrimmage, combining his 135 rushing yards with 26 receiving yards on 2 catches. He accounted for 48% of Seattle's offensive production, a remarkable share that underscored his central role in the game plan. Perhaps most impressive was Walker's consistency and durability, as he handled 29 total touches, the second highest workload of his professional career. The performance held special emotional significance for Walker beyond the championship glory and individual accolades. In a post-game revelation that captured hearts across the sports world, Walker shared that Super Bowl LX marked the first time his father had attended one of his NFL games. Walker's father, who struggles with anxiety in large crowds, had previously watched his son's professional career from the comfort of his Seattle home. For this special occasion, however, he made the trip to Santa Clara and witnessed his son's crowning achievement in person. "My dad, he comes up to Seattle all the time to watch the games, but never goes to the games," Walker explained to reporters. "This is his first game ever. He stayed in Seattle with my aunt. I'm thankful that he came today. It's a blessing." The emotional weight of that moment, combined with Walker's journey from a health scare that nearly ended his career to Super Bowl MVP, created a narrative that transcended football statistics. Walker had previously battled through a serious medical situation that threatened his playing future. "When a doctor told me I couldn't play no more, I just thought football was over," Walker recalled. "It was a shocking moment, but my dad worked with me throughout that whole process, and he was in the hospital with me as well, and my mom. Going through that, it just made me grateful for each and every day to be able to go out there and strap up and play this game and just still be alive." The timing of Walker's historic performance could not have been better from a career perspective. The 25-year-old running back is scheduled to become an unrestricted free agent when the new league year begins in March, having completed the final season of his rookie contract with a salary cap number of just under $2.7 million. His Super Bowl MVP award, combined with his consistent playoff excellence, positioned him for a significant payday either from Seattle or another team willing to invest in a proven championship-caliber back. Seattle general manager John Schneider acknowledged both his desire to retain Walker and the reality that the price tag had likely increased substantially. "I'm happy for him," Schneider said. "You want to see people be able to take care of their families and do whatever they can to increase their earning power. Obviously, we'd love to have Ken back. That stuff will play out in 2 weeks. We go to the combine, start talking to everybody, and see what the landscape could look like for the spring." Only 3 previous Super Bowl MVPs have changed teams the following offseason, with Tampa Bay defensive back Dexter Jackson in 2003 being the most recent. Walker expressed his preference to remain in Seattle during his media availability, stating, "I'd definitely stay," when asked about his future, though he acknowledged that business decisions would ultimately determine his next destination. For New England, the loss represented a disappointing conclusion to what had been a magical and unexpected season. The Patriots, led by first-year head coach Mike Vrabel and featuring Maye in just his second professional season, exceeded all preseason expectations by winning the AFC Championship and reaching the Super Bowl. Their journey captured the imagination of New England fans still mourning the end of the Tom Brady and Bill Belichick dynasty that had dominated the league for 2 decades. Maye's playoff performance leading up to the Super Bowl had been spectacular, with the young quarterback displaying the mobility, arm talent, and competitive fire that made him the 3rd overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. However, against Seattle's defense, those attributes proved insufficient. Maye finished the game having been sacked 6 times, a brutal total that brought his playoff sack total to 20, establishing a new NFL record for most sacks absorbed in a single postseason. The Patriots' offensive struggles extended beyond quarterback pressure. Running backs Ramondre Stevenson and Tre'Veyon Henderson combined for just 13 carries and 42 yards, a paltry 3.2 yards per attempt that left New England one-dimensional and predictable. Seattle's defensive front, featuring defensive tackles Jaron Reed and Byron Murphy along with edge rushers Boy Mayfield and Uchenna Nwosu, controlled the line of scrimmage and prevented the Patriots from establishing any sort of balanced attack. The halftime show provided the evening's other major spectacle, as Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny became the first artist with a primarily Spanish-language repertoire to headline the Super Bowl halftime performance. The 23-minute show featured surprise guests and a message of unity, with Bad Bunny displaying the flags of various American nations before declaring, "God bless America," and listing off countries from South, Central, and North America. The performance was widely praised for its production values, cultural significance, and musical quality, providing a memorable intermission to the defensive battle unfolding on the field. Seattle's victory carried added emotional resonance because it avenged the franchise's devastating loss to New England in Super Bowl XLIX following the 2014 season. That game, also broadcast on NBC and witnessed by 114 million viewers, remains one of the most discussed Super Bowl finishes in history. The Patriots rallied from a 10-point fourth-quarter deficit, with Tom Brady throwing for a then-record 37 completions. The game climaxed with Seattle choosing to pass from the New England 1-yard line in the final minute rather than hand the ball to star running back Marshawn Lynch. Malcolm Butler's interception of Russell Wilson's pass preserved New England's 28-24 victory and denied Seattle what would have been back-to-back championships. 11 years later, with an almost entirely different roster and coaching staff, Seattle exorcised those demons by defeating the Patriots decisively. Head coach Mike Macdonald, hired 2 years ago when most teams were seeking offensive-minded leaders, validated Seattle's faith in defensive expertise. Macdonald, who had earned a reputation as the defensive Sean McVay during his tenure as Baltimore's defensive coordinator, brought innovative schemes and an aggressive philosophy that transformed Seattle's defense into the league's most feared unit. The comparison to Seattle's first championship proved apt. In Super Bowl XVIII, following the 2013 season, the Seahawks demolished Denver 43-8 behind the dominance of their Legion of Boom secondary and a smothering defensive performance. That team relied on defense and a powerful running game to overwhelm opponents, much as this 2026 version had done throughout the season. Sam Darnold's championship sealed one of the most remarkable career arcs in recent NFL history. The former third overall pick had appeared to be out of the league after disappointing tenures with the Jets and Panthers, teams that had given up on his potential after he led the league in interceptions during his time in Carolina. Yet Seattle saw something salvageable in the former USC standout, and offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak designed a system that emphasized Darnold's strengths while minimizing his tendency toward risky throws. The result was a regular season in which Darnold threw 31 touchdown passes against 14 interceptions. Solid, if unspectacular numbers that became exceptional when considering his playoff performance. In 4 postseason games culminating in the Super Bowl championship, Darnold threw 0 interceptions while making the crucial throws necessary to keep drives alive. His ability to avoid turnovers proved essential in close playoff victories, and allowed Seattle's defense to operate with short fields and favorable field position. It's unbelievable, just everything that's happened in my career. But to do it with this team, I wouldn't want it any other way, Darnold said while hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. The quarterback's journey from cast-off to champion provided a Hollywood-worthy narrative that resonated with fans across the league who appreciate redemption stories and second chances. For Patriots receiver Stefon Diggs, the loss marked another disappointing conclusion, despite a strong individual playoff run. Diggs had reached 1,000 receiving yards in his playoff career during the Super Bowl, joining just 18 other players in NFL history to achieve that milestone. However, championship success continued to elude the talented receiver who had come so close on multiple occasions with different teams. The game's officiating crew, led by veteran referee Carl Cheffers, called a relatively clean contest with few controversial moments. The most notable flag came on a holding penalty against Seattle center Jalen Sundell that negated what would have been a spectacular 49-yard touchdown run by Walker in the fourth quarter. Walker had seemingly put the finishing touch on his MVP performance with that explosive run, but the penalty brought it back, forcing Seattle to settle for yet another field goal. The O-line had the hole wide open, Walker said philosophically. I just really had to beat the safety and whoever was on my left. Scored, looked back, there's a flag, and that's probably the worst feeling ever. But, we won the game, so I'm not going to complain. Seattle's special teams units also contributed significantly to the victory. Punter Michael Dixon pinned the Patriots inside their own 6-yard line on 3 separate occasions, creating difficult field position that forced New England to navigate long fields and increased the likelihood of turnovers. The 3 Patriots drives that began backed up deep in their own territory resulted in a punt, an interception, and the game-ending sequence, demonstrating how field position battles influence the outcome. The attendance at Levi's Stadium reached capacity at 70,909, with tickets commanding premium prices befitting the championship game. Secondary market prices had reached record levels in the days leading up to kickoff, with average ticket costs exceeding $8,000 and premium seats approaching six figures. The economic impact on the Bay Area was estimated at over $500 million when accounting for hotel stays, restaurant spending, transportation, and other visitor expenditures. NBC's broadcast achieved strong viewership numbers, though final ratings would not be available for several days. Early projections suggested the game attracted approximately 115 million viewers across television and streaming platforms, making it one of the most watched Super Bowls of the past decade. The announcing team of Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark, and Kaylee Hartung received praise for their professional coverage and insightful analysis throughout the evening. Seattle's victory parade was scheduled for Wednesday afternoon in downtown Seattle, with an estimated crowd of over 700,000 expected to attend. The celebration would mark the first championship parade in the city since 2014, when the Seahawks celebrated their first Super Bowl title with a massive downtown gathering. City officials prepared for the logistics of hosting such a large event while ensuring public safety and managing traffic disruptions. For the NFL, Super Bowl LX represented another successful conclusion to a season that had generated record revenues and maintained strong fan engagement despite various cultural and political controversies. Commissioner Roger Goodell, present at the game and the trophy presentation, emphasized the league's global growth and commitment to expanding its international footprint in remarks following the contest. The championship also carried implications for the upcoming free agency period and draft, with several Seattle players positioned to command significant contracts based on their playoff performances. Beyond Walker, defensive linemen Byron Murphy and Jaron Reed would test the market, as would linebacker Uchenna Nwosu, whose pick six in the Super Bowl capped a strong postseason showing. Offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak confirmed immediately after the game that he would be leaving Seattle to become the Las Vegas Raiders head coach, marking the beginning of the coaching carousel that typically follows the Super Bowl. Kubiak's success in maximizing Darnold's abilities and designing an effective offensive system made him an attractive head coaching candidate, and the Raiders moved quickly to secure his services. The loss for New England, while disappointing, did not diminish the impressive progress the franchise had made in a single season. Vrabel had inherited a roster in transition and transformed it into a championship contender through smart personnel decisions, strong leadership, and an aggressive defensive philosophy. The Patriots' future appeared bright with Maye at quarterback and a young core of talented players throughout the roster. Maye's playoff struggles against Seattle's defense provided valuable learning experiences for a quarterback still early in his development. The 23-year-old signal caller demonstrated throughout the season that he possessed the physical tools and competitive temperament to become an elite quarterback. His performance in reaching the Super Bowl, even in defeat, established him as one of the league's rising stars and gave Patriots fans hope that championships would return to New England in the near future. For Seattle, the question now became whether this championship would mark the beginning of a dynasty or represent a singular peak. The Seahawks possessed the core elements necessary for sustained success: a franchise quarterback playing at a high level, defensive talent throughout the roster, and a head coach with a clear and effective philosophy. However, the challenges of salary cap management, player retention, and maintaining motivation after achieving the ultimate goal would test the organization's leadership in the months and years ahead. Walker's potential departure in free agency would significantly impact Seattle's offensive identity. While the Seahawks had depth at the running back position, replacing an MVP-caliber performance would prove difficult. The team's ability to either re-sign Walker or find an adequate replacement would likely determine whether the offense could maintain its productivity in the 2026 season. The broader narrative of Super Bowl LX ultimately centered on the triumph of traditional football values, in an era increasingly defined by passing offenses and offensive innovation. Seattle's commitment to defense, efficient quarterback play, and a powerful running game demonstrated that multiple paths to championship success remained viable. Walker's MVP award as a running back, the first in nearly 3 decades, emphasized that the position retained significant value despite the league's evolution toward pass-first offensive philosophies. As confetti fell and the Seahawks celebrated their second championship, the image of Kenneth Walker holding the Lombardi Trophy alongside his father encapsulated the human element that makes sports compelling beyond statistics and strategy. A young man who had overcome health challenges and doubts about his future, earning the sport's highest individual honor while sharing the moment with a father who had overcome his own fears to witness his son's triumph, created a story that would be retold for generations. The Seattle Seahawks, champions of Super Bowl LX, had written their names into NFL history once again, proving that defense wins championships and that running backs, despite reports of their demise, remain capable of dominating football's grandest stage.